Hi, it's John, and welcome to the channel just after 4 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, December the 8th. Enjoying my cup of coffee in the morning out of the blue mug. I hope you're enjoying your cup of coffee today. And I wanted to cover a couple of different things today, one of which is international, Donald Trump over in Paris. And we'll talk about that a little bit. Also, my province, Alberta. I love Alberta. Lived in Ontario most of my life. Moved out here about 12 years ago. I would never go back out east. The West is the best, folks. We'll talk a little bit about Alberta as well. But I want to start off talking about a topic I've discussed here on this channel before, and this is Emo Township Mayor Harold McQuaker. Now, does that name ring a bell with you? Well, if it doesn't, let me just kind of catch you up here. About a week and a half ago, this was an international story on how the township of Emo was taken in front of an Ontario Human Rights Tribunal because they didn't declare June Pride Month. Now, the town was fined 10 grand, and the mayor himself fined $5,000 because he wouldn't comply. They were also told they had to go into pride re-education to kind of get their mind straight, if you know what I mean. So anyway, McQuaker said he wasn't going to pay the $5,000. He said it was extortion. Well, it doesn't matter because this group called Borderland Pride went to the court and they took Mr. McQuaker's money right out of the bank. They garnished it without him even knowing about it. So they've now taken his money, and they're doing victory laps on Facebook apparently because they've done this. Now, you may say this is absolutely ridiculous. How can this happen in a country like Canada? Well, it's happened before. Do you not remember? It wasn't very long ago when the Prime Minister of the country, he froze bank accounts in this country, which was an absolutely disgraceful act and should completely eliminate him from being Prime Minister as far as I'm concerned, because that should not be happening in Canada. Now, the article was written by Joe Warmington in the Toronto Sun. He suggests that the Premier send somebody out to Emo to talk to these two groups and get the mayor and the Pride group together so they can shake hands and be friends. But that's not what this is about, folks. They say they want you to celebrate Pride, but what they really mean is celebrate Pride or else. And that's where we are in this country. Now, you're probably wondering, like I am, whether the LG part of this long acronym want to separate themselves from the rest of the alphabet soup, because I'm old enough to remember when it was only about gay marriage, and it's not about that anymore. I'm also old enough to remember back to 2016, and you probably are as well. Jordan Peterson was just a university professor before 2016, and now he's a worldwide phenomenon. And he was concerned about compelled speech in the Canadian Human Rights Act and the Criminal Code. They wrote gender expression and gender identity into the law here in Canada, and Peterson was the first person to point out that compelled speech would be part of the law and people could go to jail. Well, not in this case with Mr. McQuaker, but they're taking his money. Pretty disgraceful, isn't it? So that's where we are in Canada right now. So maybe I should be watching out what I'm saying about this, because I've got, my own personal feelings about this. I don't care how you live your life. I'm a conservative. All I want is to be left alone. Leave me alone. Live your life. I don't care how you live your life, as long as you're not hurting children. Moving on now, I want to talk a little bit about Alberta and how much I love Alberta. And the reason I'm talking about this today is because of these pictures. Let me just show you these pictures right now. I took these pictures myself, went on a trip to BC a couple of years ago. And I snapped these photos down at Pincher Creek. Now, if you don't know Alberta, Calgary is in southern Alberta, but it's about 200 kilometers north of Pincher Creek. So it's a 2-hour drive almost directly south of the city. And here it is on Google Maps. And these pictures were taken down near Pincher Creek. And when I drove by, I snapped these photos with my little snap and click photo, and I was disgusted at what I saw. And I call this visual pollution. All right, that's what this is. This is visual pollution. And they put up these wind turbines right in front of a beautiful view of the Rocky Mountains. And I have very deep feelings about what's called renewable energy in our province. And as a matter of fact, I did a video on this back, was it late January, early February, when it was minus 36 in the province. And we were concerned that our energy was going to go up because we haven't got enough energy here in Alberta, in a place where we've got like the third largest fossil fuel reserves in the whole world. And you can watch that. Watch it. I'll put a link in the description so you can watch it. It's got more than 5,000 views now on my little channel here. But that's how I feel about renewable energy and these eco-crucifixes they put up everywhere and the solar panels that despoil the environment. And I've been talking about this for a long time. Well, the province of Alberta is on this. I recorded this a little bit earlier just so I could kind of sync up the actual article, which is in pipelineonline.ca. But here it is, what Alberta is doing, and God love this province, and God love Danielle Smith and our premier of the province as well. So this comes from pipelineonline.ca. I want to read a few paragraphs of this for you, written by Lisa Johnson and Jack Farrell of the Canadian Press. The Alberta government has confirmed new rules for wind and solar energy projects it says are needed to protect the environment, food security, and the province's scenery. The new regulations stem from Premier Danielle Smith's February announcement that Alberta was going to take an agriculture-first approach towards renewable energy development moving forward following the government-imposed 7-month moratorium on project approvals in 2023. Among the new regulations is a prohibition on wind projects within a specified 70,000 square kilometer buffer zone that surrounds the Rocky Mountains and reaches to the western half of Calgary, according to a map published by the government Friday. Renewable energy projects also won't be allowed on top-grade agricultural land unless developers can prove the projects can productively coexist with livestock and crops. Renewable and non-renewable electricity projects located in other select areas, including around Cypress Hills Provincial Park and large pockets of southern Alberta, will need to be assessed for their effect on landscape views before possible approval. I want to jump ahead to this paragraph. Also set out in regulation now is a requirement for renewable energy developers to pony up ahead of time all reclamation costs through a mandatory security or bond either to the province or to private landowners. And just one final thought on this. I think when those wind turbines I showed you down in Pincher Creek and other ones across the province come to the end of life, which I think is 15 or 20 years, I don't think they'll put them back up, which I think is a great thing. They don't do much to help when it comes to keeping the lights on. In that video that I've linked below, I mentioned that at the time we had minus 36 Celsius temperatures here in Alberta, and the whole province was under a cold warning here. Wind and solar wasn't providing any energy for the province at all. So I think that's a really good thing. Now, finally, on an international note, Donald Trump was over in Paris at the reopening of the Notre Dame Cathedral. Fascinating how Donald Trump hasn't been sworn in yet, and he is the leader of the United States right now. Joe Biden, he's doing is pardoning people like his son, and I think Kamala Harris is off getting bombed somewhere. But Donald Trump is leading the world, and he met over in Paris with Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine. And I think Trump said that he would end the Russia-Ukraine war on day one. Now, whether it happens day one or not, I don't know, but I think soon after the inauguration of Donald Trump, this war will come to an end. But here's what's going to happen, and I'm going to predict this right now. The left are going to say that it's ended because Donald Trump is Putin's puppet. Because what's going to happen is Zelensky is going to give up some territory to the Russians, and the left is going to blame it all on Donald Trump. He is Putin's puppet. They've been saying it for years now. The Russia thing, which ended up being false, which ended up being misinformation and disinformation. So expect that to happen. Now, I'm old enough to remember there was a debate between Mitt Romney and Barack Obama. And I think the question was, what are the biggest threats to the United States of America? And Romney said Russia was. And everybody laughed, including Barack Obama, who went on to say, Romney's stance on Russia was 1980s foreign policy. Isn't it interesting how things have changed over the years? Thanks for watching. I'll be back again tomorrow, if not later today if something comes up. If you want to subscribe to the channel, feel free. If you want to give me a thumbs up, feel free. If you want to leave a comment, I appreciate those as well. Talk to you next time.